Buddhism, it's by far upheld by many, many scholars to be the most precious treasure of philosophy on earth. Why do we say that? Because it has the most literature. Just to mention the Chinese literature on Buddhism, that is close to 9,000 volumes over the span of 1,600 years of translations since the Tang Dynasty. We can start from the Tang Dynasty. How many words are there together? Uncountable, billions of words in Chinese characters written about Buddhism. I'm just considering the Chinese version of the Buddhist teaching. If one lives up to 100 years of your lifetime, one can only maybe read a few of those sutras and Abhidharma sutras. And since about 200 years ago, many translations have been made of many other foreign countries other than Chinese. English, French, Italian, German, especially German. Germany was one of the most forefront in trying to understand Buddhism through translations. Why? In Europe, why? Because Germany somehow within the past, or maybe 150 years ago, or 200 years ago, they seem to have the most archaeologists in their country. And they went abroad to India, to Asia, to Sri Lanka, to Burma, for excavation of relics of human civilization. And what did they find? What did they find? They found old sutras among the heaps of materials that they excavate from caves, from underneath the earth crust. Maybe not underneath the earth's surface. So, if you're a first-time comer and you're thinking about, I want to understand something about Buddhism, I'm interested in it, and it takes more than just one session. When we talk about Buddhism, our intention is not to convert. Conversion is forceful. Conversion is one-sided. It has to be mutual. You have to first understand the objective of meditation first, maybe. Let's restrict our thinking. But am I not talking about the 9 stages of development? Maybe I'll leave that to beginner's session, as you suggested. Maybe somehow we should have beginner's session. Otherwise, I'm always going back to the origin, to the. Let's have a review on the 9 stages of mental development. And of course, the first one is mental placement. How do you place mentally your mind inside the mental placement? That's mental placement is extremely important. Talking about mental placement, there's something that I should review again. When we're talking about mind and gearing our mind inwards, what are we talking about? We have to understand our consciousness. How does our consciousness work? How does a consciousness arise? The other day, on the first Chinese New Year, I was distributing apples and oranges out to visitors in the first hour of after midnight. And there was a Caucasian member who said, I said, here's an apple and some apple and oranges, wishings for blessings, auspiciousness, good health. And then he said, where does blessings come from? Why I was in a hurry distributing. It was asking me a metaphysical question, a philosophy question. Where does blessings come from? I said, blessings come from the mind. Where does the mind come from? I said, the mind comes from some consciousness. And then they sort of hesitated and they left. Consciousness, how does your consciousness, do you understand your own consciousness? How does a consciousness arise? If you study psychology, probably you know something about it. In psychology, we're talking about 3 kinds of consciousnesses. The outer level consciousness, and then the subconsciousness, and there's also the super consciousness. How does accrued consciousness arise? Why are we talking about consciousness? Are we not conscious? Maybe you are not. If you're not conscious, it's not right. You have to be conscious. If you're not conscious, you don't know what I'm talking about. Say if you're fainted, or if you're in a coma, or if you don't pay attention to me, you don't know what I'm talking about. Because your consciousness does not arise in listening to me. When you're eating something, if your mind is dreaming away, you don't know how it tastes. You're eating, but you don't know how it tastes because your mind is somewhere else. Maybe you're grief-stricken. Maybe you're too happy, you're too joyful. You don't know what you're eating. You could be eating on a hamburger and you don't know what it tastes. You just spontaneously eating it. You're not paying. Your consciousness of tasting does not arise. You could be seeing without consciousness of seeing because you don't notice what you're seeing. The same applies to listening. So how does a consciousness arise? The Buddha said there are 5 general mental formations when a consciousness arises. The first one, for example, if my eyes look at something, then my eyes, first of all, have to pay attention to that object. So my eye, my sensual organ, my eye organ, view an object. So my eye can view, and that object is being viewed. This is a can, and that's being. So this being view, and in this process of my eye viewing and an object being viewed, the visual consciousnesses arise. If I pay attention, there's an attention in there. But before that, you have to first of all pay attention, and then secondly, my sense organ has to be in contact with the view. So the first one is attention, the second one is contact. It has to have contact. So there's an object of being viewed. There's an object. There must be an object. And then we have attention, we have contact, and then we also have a perception. That means that contact is just crude, and if that contact touches the object, it's perceived by the eye. Another level is a closer level, is catching the object, contacting it, and perceiving it, absorbing it. But your eyes perceive is only a crude consciousness. It has to be conceptualized in your mind. Oh, that's a red door. As a door is an object, that's a red, and it has carving on it, and it's right in front of me. So you have to conceptualize it. In the process of conceptualizing, you are somehow analyzing it, reflecting back on it a little bit, but there's only crude consciousness. And then you carry on with more mental formations. If you look at that door and you just see that there's a red door, finished, then that's just a crude recognizing the redness of the door. But if you continue conceptualizing it and Oh, this is a red door, beautiful carving. Where does it come from? Maybe I'll go and take a look. I'll touch it. I'll touch the carving. I'll see how red it is. Is it painted? Is it wood? Is it fiber? Is it plastic? What does it make of? So all this attention, contact, perception, and conceptualization drives you to go and touch it. That's volition. You perform action after the consciousness arises. So in other words, just a general mental formation of seeing something, do you realize how much is involved in that? How much is involved in your sensual organs? I don't have to tell you how the ears work, how my tongue, my taste consciousness works, and how my smell consciousness works, and how about touch consciousness, tactile optic touch consciousness work. And why do we talk about all these? Do you know why we talk about all these? Who are you? You are made up of what? Who am I? What am I made up of? A bunch of flesh? I'm made up of my body and mind. And everything I speak, everything I perform, how I behave is from my body and mind. Don't you have to understand your body and mind better? Now when I see that door, or maybe give another example, not just a door, when I see something, or I always use an example, when a man sees a woman, of course there's attention, right? The first sight is an attention. And there's a contact, your eye contact. And then there's a perception. And that perception is a little analysis. Oh, there's an ugly lady. There's a beautiful lady. And then there's also a conceptualization. Nice looking, whatever. And then there's volitions. You strike up at an acquaintance. And then you carry forward, volitionally, carry forward an action. And it may wind up in an encounter that is not justifiable. I don't know, whatever it happens. So all these things, all this volitional action, all this speech, everything arises out from your consciousness and it drives you to do something. Nobody would have consciousness rise without volitional action. Your speech, your action, everything comes from your consciousness. And you perform accordingly. What did you perform? Killing, stealing, lying, intoxications, fear, disappointment, depression, jealousy, hatred, anger. Everything arises out of consciousness. And you perform accordingly. And you think after you perform those things, it's okay. Nothing happened. Your consciousness drives you to do something, to speak about something, and then nothing will happen. A lot of things happen. Because in whatever you do, whatever you say, there's three natures in it. A good, let's use simple English. Good nature, bad nature, and indifferent nature. Everything you do is of a bad nature. It brings out karma. It has karma in it. You can't get away with it. It's karma. If you hit someone, for example, on the street because somebody infuriates you, you hit something, you hurt someone, you think you can get away with it. Apparently, if the police comes up, you will be charged for assault. You can see the result right away. There's a consequence in it. And even if you get away without the police in here, the karma still exists. In other words, that injury, the cost, there's a cost cultivated in it that you injure some people. And then somehow you get a consequence. You can't get away. There's a karmic force in it. There's a consequence. There's an effect in everything that you have done. Then how does that affect me? And people say, I suffered. My dad is an alcoholic. I divorced my wife. I lost my job. I couldn't go through university. I failed out. I dropped out. I'm unemployed. I'm on welfare. I have a terminal sickness. My family member is ill. My mom and dad divorced, and I have been an orphan since 5. I suffer terribly. Why do we all have all this suffering? Why? Because you brought your own karma. Because you have done something that attributes to what you're suffering. Not God. Don't blame God for it. It's not God who gave you this. God wouldn't give you any of this unkind consequences. It's not God. It's you created your own destiny. You create your own good destiny. You create your own bad destiny. You create your indifferent destiny. Nobody else. So do we need to know about our mind? The Buddha said that's why you have to study your consciousness so that everything you do is of a good nature. Yeah, it's easy to say, okay, I do everything good, so I'm fine. Everything I do, I'll be a good boy. I'll be a good girl, I'll be a good boy. But can you control yourself? You know certain deeds are not good, but you're still doing it. You know you shouldn't be on drugs, but how come you cannot get away with it? You know you should mix with bad friends. How come you couldn't get away with them? You know that I don't want to go to a rehab center anymore, but you still, every time you commit something, you go back there. You know that you have to work hard, but you always get fired for laziness. Why do all these things happen? Because you're not strong in your consciousness. You don't create something that you should be striving for. So, in meditation, the foremost meditation is you bring your wandering mind back home. Because you've been doing all these things without control. That's why you get mad, you get angry, you get jealous, you get, fraudulent, you're arrogant, you're selfish, you're egoistic. Or sometimes you may be doing good deeds too. Don't get me wrong, I'm not negative. There are 26 mental afflictions, and there's 11 good deeds that you have been doing. Not just, whatever comes from your mind is not just bad things, also good things too. You always have a choice in you, but it seems that we always pick up the wrong choice. There's a choice that you should be compassionate, but we always hate people. There's a choice that you will be non-selfish, but we're always egoistic. There's a choice that you should be working hard and get what you want, but you are sluggish and slothful. So why are we doing this? Are we not stupid? Why don't we start to know about ourselves more? That's Buddha's teaching. That's Buddhism. Not about God. Throw that concept away. That is a one-sided, forceful, trying to convert people concept. The Buddha's teaching is to reflect inside, to know about your own mind, so that you can be a better individual. Every morning when you go to work, don't you have to look at the mirror? Did I comb my hair? Did I do the makeup? Is my face clean? You do really have to look at yourself. And how come you don't look at the self-mirror of your own mind? You just look at yourself superficially on the surface. You don't contemplate on your real inner self, which is more important. What is more important? How you look or how your mind works. You want to have the good looks, you have to have a good mind. Your mind must be beautiful in order that you look beautiful.